It's going live. The Hangout is on air and live. Oh, I need to be looking on my, you email me something you just
Okay,
said.
so it does say that you're live.
Yeah. It says live in a little yellow over there to the right at the top.
Okay. Yeah, it's still not showing that you're live.
Is it something I need to else click on? Do I need to turn off the camera?
No. Okay. Tell me what you see on your screen.
Well, right, I clicked off the camera, so now I see my Google email picture. And I hear myself talking because it's the speakers reverberating as I'm speaking. So it's the black screen with me, my little picture in the middle.
Okay, yeah, you are live.
You want me to click stop broadcast and then click it again?
No. Don't stop the broadcast.
Okay, so let's see. Somebody is, oh, that's just 2 tweets. Because I'm still on Twitter because I don't have Jeff's number, but I emailed him and I tweeted him and said, are you trying to log in? Technical difficulties? Let me know. What's the phone number for my tech guy to call you? So now I'm trying to look for your button that you sent. Okay, I see the PayPal link. I wonder why it says 337. So I wonder why it says you sent it at 3:37. Maybe it's California time or something.
Could be. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to click on the link and see what it's going to say. And then I will copy and paste it. So how did you make it say 99 cents? Oh, you went and did something?
I created
But okay, so don't matter. Now here's the it's when I clicked on the link, it goes to the PayPal front page and it's asking for my password. So they'll have to put in their password stuff.
There's a link you should see, pay with credit card right under there.
Okay.
They can do that and then they don't have to have a PayPal account.
Okay, so I need to make sure I say that the link, and then if you have a PayPal account, you can go in and put in your information and pay the 99 cents for the promotional price for the first 50 people. But if you don't have a PayPal account, you click on the link at the bottom that says pay with a debit card, and you can do that. Okay, I just wanted to see what the link was gonna do. All right. So it's not saying it's live or not letting anybody in?
Yeah, you haven't logged in.
It says I haven't logged in.
Yeah.
Do you want me, so you don't want me to just click out and then go back and start again?
No.
Okay. I ain't gonna ask that no more then. You know what? Okay. It says enter the room before you start the broadcast. So I don't think I entered the room over here.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
So I need to stop the broadcast and then enter the room and then start the broadcast again. You think?
See if you can enter the room.
Just enter the room. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. I'm entered.
Okay.
Chat is unmuted. Chat is muted.
Okay. So now I got you.
Okay, to admin. So what did you and Eddie talk about?
I didn't call him. Moderator. You need me to call him?
Well, he ain't on. We got 6 minutes. It's gonna be me and you.
I'll call him.
All right. Bye. Hello. Hi, welcome to the webinar. I'm Stephanie Rivers. They should be able to get on. He must got something on him because he is dedicated. You hear me? Okay, so that's up top. Let me see if I got anything else I need to be seeing. So I can go ahead just in case and copy. Joyce in Albuquerque. We'll have a little roll call before we get started. I should have asked him if he was available. I forgot. I had to do it some other time. It's like a class. Hi, who do we have on with us on the Airline Travel Secrets Happy Travelers Club webinar today? I'm Stephanie Rivers. They're going to throw me out any minute now, but that's okay. Hello and welcome to the Happy Travelers and welcome to the webinar. This is the start of the Happy Travelers webinar. Why is nobody? Let me see, chat. Oh, snap. Pause. Offers. Select offer. Hello and welcome to the webinar. If you're just joining us for the Airline Travel Secrets Happy Travelers Club webinar, we want to welcome you. Go ahead and type in your name on the right-hand side at the bottom to let us know who's on with us and where you're from. And in the meantime, we will get started. We'll give everyone a few minutes. Hope everyone had a happy and successful, pleasant, productive Memorial Day celebration, Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. I worked most of it, but I had a productive time. Nonetheless. Now, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and there's some weather here as a storm passing through. So for some strange reason, I just disappear. I'll come back as soon as I can. It would be a lost signal. So I wanted to give everybody a few minutes. So again, at the bottom, if you can hear me and you can see me down on the bottom right-hand side of your webinar screen, go ahead and type yes, at least. If you don't want to tell us who you are, just type yes so that I can know that you can hear me okay. So I won't be talking and nobody can hear me. And again, if you would like to, and I'm going to type this as well. Tell us who you are and where you're coming in from. And then we can get started. So again, let me see who's in. It says that we have 4 live viewers out of the ones who were registered.
See on your screen.
Hey, I'm seeing me.
Do you see? It's because it says you're not live yet.
Okay.
Does it say live?
Yeah, it says live. I touched the it says at the bottom, at the top it says live, yes. And so I haven't done anything other than anything since what you told me to do before.
Does it say start the broadcast anywhere?
At the bottom, no, it says stop broadcast. It says I'm live, and up top it says I'm live, and so I'm typing. Tell us who you are and where you're located. Can you hear me or see me? Can you see me? So you're not seeing me at all?
It's saying the presenter hasn't started the broadcast yet.
Okay. It said, okay, I see where it says not live, admin. Not live over to the side under webinar jam. It says presenter. I'm here. Eddie's. Well, that just must be the presenters. I don't know what else to do. Okay, so one person. Okay, I'm listening. I'm just typing. I have somebody who said no, she can't see me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hide from the broadcast. No, present to everyone. Hold on. You are presenting to everyone. Hi, I'm just trying to see. Okay, are you seeing anything there?
No.
It says I'm presenting to everyone now. And it still says I'm not live.
Yeah.
So I wonder what happened between a few minutes ago and now.
Okay, I see Jeff saying he's here.
Okay, Jeff says he's here. Uh
Trying to think. Okay, do you see yourself?
yes.
Like on camera?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
And there's no go live or on broadcast? Any of that?
It says live, and now they're here to throw me out of the room. Are you part of the writing group? No, are they here? Yeah. Okay, I'm on the way out. Okay, so now moving. Okay. Okay, but what else do you want me to do? I'm listening. I'm listening.
I mean, everything is in place for it to be live. I don't see why we're not able to see you.
Okay. I don't know what you want. I mean, I don't know what else to do. It says you're presenting to everyone right now. Okay, so all right, hold on. Let me see if I can figure something out. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Stop screen share. No. Stop presenting. No, I want to present. Hide participants. Invite people. Mute microphone. Turn off the camera. The camera is on. Leave the call. We don't want to do that. Okay. Hi, Jeff. Are you hearing me and seeing me?
I am now. Are you hearing me and seeing me?
Yes. I don't know why we just couldn't until now, but okay. So maybe we can get started. Derek, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. So Jeff is on, and he says he can hear me and see me. So we can go ahead. Is that best?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you. Okay, because I apologize for the technical issues that we've had, but apparently nobody could hear me or see me but myself. But so now we just want to try to catch up. I want to say welcome to the Airline Travel Secrets webinar. And before we get started any further, I'm going to bring up the webinar so we can get started. And we have online with us one of our presenters. And let me go ahead and do the screen share so we can drop in the. All right, so hopefully everybody at this point is seeing the PDF that I have put together. So essentially, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. If for those of you who don't know me, just a little bit about myself, I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I have about 10 years experience in the airline industry. I've worked as a baggage handler. I've worked as a crew scheduler. Those are the people who actually schedule the flight attendants and the crews, the pilots to their flights. And I've worked in the in-flight department as well. And now for the past 3 years, I've worked as a flight attendant. And so I'm a journalist by profession. Used to be a TV reporter and a newspaper reporter, and I've taught college courses in that field. I used to run a marketing company. I wrote speeches for politicians. And so my latest offering is I just wrote a book called The Do's and Don'ts of Flying, a Flight Attendant's Guide to Airline Travel Secrets. And so I've realized there are things that people do and don't do on the plane that would make their flying experience less stressful. And so that's why that was my reason for writing the book. And so before we, I brought some other guests on who were aviation experts in their field. So we have on with us Mr. Jeff Price. He's the lead author of Practical Aviation Security. That's the name of his book. He's also a college professor and an aviation security expert. And we're waiting. Hopefully, Mr. Eddie Maselli will make it on to the call as well. He's a former pilot and an aviation analyst and a CNN contributor. So he might be in an area again. I don't know if I said this before I was on or after I realized that nobody was hearing me but me, but I'm in Dallas, Texas. It's storming here. And so if I happen to go out, which I hope I won't, then maybe that's why Eddie has not been able to make it onto the call. But essentially, Jeff will help us with his guidance and his expertise in the field as well. So before we go any further, just wanted to say thank you to all the service men and women who have given so much so that we could have the freedoms that we have in our country. So I just wanted to, I know we just started the summer travel season, and that's what the Memorial Day observance, or the Memorial Day weekend, essentially is the beginning of this summer travel season. And coincidentally, today is the Flight Attendant Appreciation Day. So if you are planning a flight anytime soon, or if you find yourself in the presence of a flight attendant, just make sure you let him or her know that they are appreciated. So today we're going to talk about the issue with airport security and flight safety. And so I know that's right up, that's where Jeff has the most knowledge, and so that's why I asked him to join us on our webinar today. So you might have noticed that on the news, there's a lot of talk about in the media with the travel related things like the long lines at TSA. And so are you guys seeing the PDF? Is everybody seeing that? Jeff, are you seeing it?
I'm actually not seeing the PDF.
You know what? Okay, let me.
I'm seeing you.
Okay, so let me share. Okay, now you're seeing it, I bet.
Yes, now I am.
Okay, so probably nobody else saw it either.
But we
Okay,
all heard you.
so well, great, great. So again, I'm going to scroll back up so everybody can see. But essentially, we're starting our uh, Happy Travelers Club uh, webinar. And again, I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I've had a ton of experience in the airline uh, industry, but my profession is journalism, and so that's why I decided to write the book, The Do's and Don'ts of Flying, to help people to have a less stressful experience in when they show up at the airport. So again, my guest today is Jeff Price. He's the lead author of the lead author of the book Practical Aviation Security, and he's also a college professor and an aviation security expert. So again, we wanted to just take a mention to the men and women who have given so much in the armed forces. And again, it's Flight Attendants Appreciation Day today. So we're going to start our webinar with airport security and flight safety. That's what we're going over. And the reason that I thought it would be a great idea to start with this is because Memorial Day weekend is the official beginning of the summer travel season. And so you might have seen all the news reports of all the long lines at security and what's going on with that. And so over the Memorial Day weekend, I actually flew into and out of Chicago's O'Hare Airport, which is the second busiest airport in this country. And so it was a madhouse. You see the TV and you see the long lines, but to just experience it, it was just people and bags, everywhere. You didn't know what line you were in or what airline you were going on or what's this line for. It was just a maze of people and bags. And so I don't know. I know when I got back to Dallas, because that's my home base airport, it seemed much calmer. And so I will say this: airports and security, you might experience have a different experience based on where you fly into and out of. And so, and because it was one of the busiest travel holidays, then essentially that's probably why all the people. But it just seemed to be, Jeff, to me, it seemed like there was a lot of, it was more chaotic than at most places. And you are based where, Jeff? In Denver?
Yeah, I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. So what was your experience at that airport? Did you fly over the Memorial Day weekend?
I did, and I started in Birmingham, Alabama on Friday afternoon, coming back home to Denver, connecting in Houston. And you always think that whenever there's a flight delay, I hope this won't be one of those epic delays that you hear about on the news, but that's exactly what I got caught up in. We had to divert from our destination in Houston into Austin, Texas, and then the computer canceled that flight, but the pilot managed to get a clearance and flew back to Houston, but the airline reservation systems never caught up, so our flights were automatically rebooted out of Austin, Texas, or rebooked out of Austin, Texas, and all of us were stuck in Houston. So we ended up in one of those many thousands of people lines. The airline phone lines were down. The apps and the websites weren't working very well. And I finally ended up just calling a friend I knew locally and had her drive me to a different airport in Houston, and just bought another ticket home, or else I wouldn't have gotten home until Sunday. But all of those issues were due to weather. They weren't due to security in this case.
Okay. So, well, I'm glad you made it to wherever you were, going, because there's always something. And that's, one thing that a lot of travelers don't realize is that let me turn on my camera. They don't realize that, if it's rainy or if it's a storm, those things certainly affect, travel as well, and it might delay a flight, or it could even cancel a flight. And so they think, they don't, I guess just because they don't see that the rain is as heavy as it might be, or it might affect us like it probably could, they always, complain maybe, what's going on, or they just think that we should go ahead with the plan. But, for safety reasons, we can't. So I'm glad that you were able to make it to your city.
Me too. Me too. That's one thing I think a lot of travelers maybe don't understand is when situations are happening like that, you really have to watch out for yourself. You can't just count on somebody else taking care of everything. A lot of us were already booking hotels while we were still sitting on the plane in Austin, Texas, just preparing for an overnight stay. And when we got back to Houston, people were already on the telephones trying to take care of the rebookings instead of just standing in the line. Even though that's what eventually happened in this case, you can do a lot for yourself just by calling a few numbers.
All right. Well, let's go back to the. Now I'm trying to bring that up. Share the screen. As you can tell, this is probably my first rodeo doing a webinar. But you live and you learn. So hopefully everyone is seeing the webinar, the PDF again, because here's what I did know. Even after 3 years of flying, I didn't know that more than 80% of the travelers have only flown once a year, and probably the reason that for all the lines at TSA this past weekend was because most of those travelers were going on their summer trip for that one time a year that they normally fly. So 80% of the people normally only fly once a year, and it happens to be the first weekend of the summer, which was last weekend. About 5% of the airline passengers fly just twice a year. So in addition to them going somewhere maybe last weekend, they'll probably fly again for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And so that in itself, simple math says that less than 15% of the airline passengers are what we consider to be frequent flyers. People who show up at the airport and they fly maybe once a month or, more often than that. But that says to me why so many people kind of don't know the ropes. They might, not know what time to show up to get through security adequately enough to give them time to get to the gate to board. They don't know, what to bring in their luggage, what's not allowed, because most people don't bother to check TSA.gov, which is TSA's website that lets you know what you can bring, what the amount of the liquid that you can bring. A lot of people don't know that. And so we frequent flyers like Jeff and myself and the other 15% of the people who actually fly frequently, we think, we'll look at a traveler with the baby, with the pets, with the bags, and we shake our heads sometimes. And it's not that we're passenger shaming. It's just I really didn't know that many people, that flying was not, an every other day or every other month occurrence for most people. But apparently, that's the case. So, Jeff, do you think? Well, who do you think, if anybody can be held responsible for the long lines at the airport security? Would you say that's TSA or the inexperienced traveler, or a little bit of both?
It's definitely a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of the inexperienced traveler and a lot of TSA. because the inexperienced traveler, once a year, they're not coming to the airport. They're not going to be up to speed on all the latest rule changes as to what you can bring, what you can't bring. They're not up to speed on the process changes that take place at airports, where, Stephanie, you and I, we see that virtually on a daily, if not a weekly basis, and to us, it's just part of our world, not understanding that these folks are coming in once a year, maybe twice a year, and they just don't understand all of that. But it really has to go back to the TSA in this case, because they knew that the passenger forecasts were up for next year. They knew that they were going to have a 5,000 person budget cut, and that was their budget cut. That was them trying to cut some costs. And they made some assumptions that did not pan out. And one of those assumptions is that they would have nearly 25 million people in pre-check by this time from last year to this year. And that would reduce the line sizes just because people can go through the pre-check lane faster. And that didn't happen. And I think those numbers you posted are telling, because if only 15% of the passenger or the traveling public are frequent flyers, really that's only about 15% of the total passenger traffic that really could benefit from pre-check, because most everybody else, if they're only going to fly once a year, it's not worth the $80, even though it's over the course of 5 years where that $80 is good for. It's just not worth it for them to send all of the family through that in order to get to a line faster, when that line may still only be 15 minutes when they get there. So I think a lot of this has to come down on TSA, frankly. They really needed to do a better job of those projections, and they really needed to do a more realistic job of those assumptions.
So then, the fact that TSA has decided to fire Kelly Hogan, he was the head of security. So do you think that they are taking ownership of that, and that's an indication that they feel like they are more responsible?
I think they're taking some short-term steps to get themselves through the Memorial Day weekend. They knew that was going to be a big show for them, to see if the things that they've implemented most recently are working. There may have been an issue with Kelly Hogan's operational philosophy of the checkpoint that may have differed from Peter Neffinger's philosophy, the TSA administrator, or it might have just been it's time for some change, so they're going to shuffle the deck a little bit. Very, very hard to tell at those upper levels why things occur, for the real reasons versus the reasons the public's given for that. But when Neffinger came on board, he came on board in the midst of that Inspector General's report from last June that showed TSA was missing a lot of test items. And we can get into red team and some of that other stuff, but the fact is they missed a lot of items. And Neffinger walked into that with the orders to fix it. So you can fix that rather quickly. All you got to do is slow the lines down to a snail's pace and look at every single thing until you're 100% satisfied that it doesn't contain any sort of a prohibited item or weapon or explosive or anything. But the problem with that is it's like being an owner of a store, and you hire a security officer because you've experienced a theft, and you tell that security officer, I want to make sure nobody steals from my store again, and you have carte blanche to do what you want to do to make sure that doesn't happen. And next thing you know, the security officer's hired 10 more people. They've got metal detectors at the door. They've got investigators that patrol the store, and you've got a line of 600 people waiting to get in the store. The function of security is meant to get in the way. That's what it exists for, is to get in the way so that we can make people safe, make people secure. But you still have to run the operation. The store still has to stay open. And I think it's really TSA trying to find the balance in that now.
Okay, so then, when I'm passing through the airport, because as an employee, and I have certain what is it called? Credentials that allow me to bypass all the lines so that I can be on the plane, ahead of my passengers and all of that, and I won't have to stand in the security line. So I don't really experience the wait time that most travelers do, but how long do you think is an acceptable wait time to get through um, security for a domestic flight or an international flight? Because we understand, that it's challenging at, it might be more challenging at Chicago and less challenging in Cleveland, but essentially, your flight leaves at a certain time. What time do you, if you were in charge of that, how long would you think is an acceptable time for people to have to wait to get through security?
I think about 10 to 15 minutes. That should be a good average time. The industry really pushes for 10 minutes. They'd really like to see 10 minutes. It takes you just 5 minutes alone to get from the divestiture point where you're putting all your belongings on the bag belt to the other side of the bag. That's an average of 3 to 5 minutes just for that process as you're filtering through with everybody else. But add on to that the waiting time. 5 minutes in line, 5 minutes to get through the process itself is very reasonable. 15 minutes, I think people will put up with that just fine. I think if you told them 20 minutes, if you said, look, you get here, count for 20 minutes, they'd put up with a 20-minute line. There seems to be kind of a point, though, right there at that 20-minute point, where if someone says, I spent 25 minutes in line or 30 minutes in line, that really seems to be their line they don't like to cross. So I think you can get away with up to 20, particularly at the busy airports during peak seasons, even for international flights, maybe 20, 25. But you're getting much beyond 20 minutes, and you're really starting to test patience. And you're starting to cost the business traveler money as well. And that's one thing that I've seen some things in the press saying, well, let's inconvenience the business traveler a little bit more and make them start checking more of their stuff, but they'll get over it. Business travelers, as you know, don't really check bags. I can go 7 days with a rollerboard and a backpack and never have to check a bag. And that's something that business travelers are used to doing. So once you start modifying all these other behaviors, you're reducing the benefit of air travel significantly. And that's not the goal we want. So coming back to the original question, I think the industry should shoot for 10 to 15 and accept 20.
Wow. So then that means they've got a long way to go, because some passengers said they had to wait 2 or 3 hours.
Absolutely, and that's just insane. It's amazing what people will do when they're scared in terms of for policies and things like that. Knee-jerk reactions. 2 to 3 hours at the airport. Statistically, your chances of even having an issue are very low on any particular given flight. And that was one thing the previous TSA administrator really brought home, was the whole concept of risk-based security. Just getting up in the morning and getting out of bed and getting into your car and going to work, all of that, you assume some level of risk. And unfortunately, we get to aviation and we seem to not want to assume any risk. We want to make sure that the plane is 100% perfect to fly, the pilots will make right decisions 100% of the time, and that it will always be completely 100% secure. We don't have that in any other aspect of our lives. Nobody expects that. So it's just interesting on the aviation side, we seem so risk averse. If I told you, for the cost of your security fee, your $5.70 or $5.80, whatever it is right now, I could guarantee you a 99.999% chance that your flight will take off and land and everything will be just fine. But if you double that, I can add a 0.9 to the end of that percentage. So can you go ahead and stomach the $11 at this point? And a lot of people are like, well, to add a 0.9? No, not really. But interestingly enough, they'll still have that expectation that it's somehow going to be 100%. So the lines, that's too long. 2 to 3 hours, that's just ridiculous.
Okay, well, you mentioned a few things that I had planned to go over, but before we get there, I do want to let everyone know as well that we're not trying to beat up on TSA, but we are trying to come up with some solutions that will help the traveler to make them smarter. And so what I, as a flight attendant, what I see that TSA is doing right, and that I appreciate, is that they do scrutinize the bags. They do pay attention to passenger behavior, because I guess in the training, and you can speak more on this, Jeff, in the training of a screener, they look at people's behavior in line. Are they sweating? How are they dressed? If they claim they're going, across the world, but they only have a book bag, that might be, something people want to look into. Of course, no weapons and no liquids are allowed over a certain size. I did some more research, and I realized that the top 5 airports where TSA found weapons going through security, this was the latest in 2014, was Dallas Fort Worth, that's my home base airport, Atlanta, Phoenix, Houston, Denver. In fact, in one of those instances, someone found a knife in an enchilada, and a screener found a live grenade in somebody's luggage. And so they are doing the right thing. Of course, we don't want it to take 2 or 3 hours for everybody to go through security, but I, for one, since I spend so much time on the plane, of course I want them to do a great job with screening, because it's kind of like, we have different lanes of a responsibility, in that, I'm responsible for making sure bags get up and certain things come on the plane, certain things don't. TSA is responsible for making sure, nothing that's detrimental, that could be that way, gets it past security. And so, maintenance has their responsibility to make sure the plane flies. Baggage handlers make sure your bags get on, so it's like we all have our own part in the process. So I do want to say that I do appreciate what they're doing, but of course we don't want anybody, because I travel as when I'm not working, and so who has time to leave 5 hours before your flight so you can be in the line 3 hours before your flight so you can spend 2 hours in the line? We don't have that much time, and like you said, it causes business travelers to lose money, because some of them are going just for the day for a certain meeting. And so because I've even had, when we have a mechanical, once everybody gets have to cancel their plans altogether, because by the time the flight would even get there, they would have missed the meeting. So there's no need for them to go to the meeting.
Yeah, so exactly right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I was just going to the next
okay.
Screen. So is it at this point, is it in TSA's best interest to hire more airport security screeners, or I've heard talk of hiring a private company to take over this security aspect, take it out of TSA's hands? What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of confusion around the private screening program. The TSA definitely needs more people right now. I think long term they need to look at things other airports are doing around the world, which is automating the baggage process at the checkpoint so that they can pull a suspect bag off the line and inspect it without stopping the entire line. Those automated programs have been in place at several airports throughout the world, and we just haven't had them here. But even low-tech solutions, just putting a table next to the X-ray operator so that he or she can pull the bag off and just put it on that table until somebody can come look at it. Meanwhile, they keep the belt running. So short-term TSA needs people, long-term TSA needs to change how they do things and adopt some best practices. The private screener program, there's a lot of confusion around that. And it's to be expected, because prior to 9/11 we had private screeners, and that the performance was not good from the private screeners. But a couple of things with that: you get what you regulate. So if you are very light on your regulations and your enforcement, then you'll have a very light treatment when it comes to the rules and what's acceptable in terms of performance. The FAA never held them to a real high standard, and I can speak with some authority on this too. Most of my career has been spent in aviation security in some way, shape, or form. Even back in the 80s, I was a screener for a period of time, and it's not a fun job. It can be a mind-numbingly boring job. You take a lot of grief from people coming through. So long term, they need to look at automation. But as far as the privatized side of things, the pre-9/11 model was the airlines were responsible for screening. They hired private contractors, and then the FAA regulated that process. Today's private screener model, it's TSA will hire the contractor. Now that's something a lot of people don't realize, is that when you switched to non-TSA screeners, TSA is not out of the deal. In fact, they are the dealer. They will select your non-TSA screeners from a list of qualified companies. They will oversee the implementation and the transfer of those private screeners into the TSA workforce, or into the checkpoint, into the checkpoint, and the other TSA functions at the airport there. The airport does have a little bit of a say. The airport can say, we want private screeners. It's called opting out. It's part of the screening partnership program. And the airport can have kind of a non-binding vote as to which private contractor comes in. But TSA runs that show. So immediately, all of the existing screening workforce that are TSA employees at that checkpoint or at that airport are offered positions with that private contractor company. So that's something else a lot of people don't realize, is that you might see the same people there you just saw a month earlier, except now they're working for a private contractor. At that point, the private contractor will backfill the rest of those positions with TSA people that did not transfer over. But then TSA leaves its supervisory and its management force in place as the regulator to oversee all of those operations. So when we say privatize screening today, what we're really doing is just privatizing that workforce, but still leaving TSA in charge.
So then probably nothing would change as far as the wait time or the process, I guess. It would still be the same issues that they face today, whether it's a privatized company or TSA actually doing it.
Yeah, there's some debate in the industry about that. The airports that do have the private screeners, there were 5 of them that retained private screeners after 9/11 as part of a test program. And then since then, we're now up to 22 airports that have the private screeners. They've never wanted to go back to TSA. They generally report that a private contractor can hire faster than the federal hiring process. They can flex the personnel more than you can flex a federal government employee's schedule. And they get the same screener allocation model, the same amount of screeners, but they seem to do just a better job at being able to use those personnel. And also they can use personnel for non-security functions, like returning bins back and forth. You don't need a security professional to haul bins back and forth. You can hire somebody at a lower rate than what you're paying the screener just to run bins back and forth and do those non-security related functions. So they seem to find some efficiencies there, but it is a healthy industry debate as to which one you get more efficiencies. What's not debated so much is the performance of the private screener versus TSA. They have to meet those standards, or else TSA wouldn't let them be there.
Okay, so what about lowering the checked bag fees to encourage less carry-on items? I know I personally think, Jeff, that if we would do more to educate the travelers to reduce the checked bags, the count, then it would help the process. I read an article this few days ago that said in this particular airport there were 57,000 people who went through that day through the security checkpoint. So if you take 57,000 people times 2 bags, because most people will bring at least 2 bags, then therein lies the issue with the speed, of course, because they have to look through everything, the screeners do. So do you think it's more about educating the flyer or the traveler to what it is that they actually need to bring and what will the process, rather than hiring more screeners?
I think there was a recent article out on in USA Today about some suggestions for TSA moving forward, and some of those are good ideas. Some of those are good ideas that are not going to happen though. And also to your point earlier, TSA has actually done a great job lately of being able to listen to industry. It was an industry recommendation that they pull their behavior detection officers away from wandering around the airport, which is a job already performed by airport security and airport police, to the travel document checkpoint, where they can engage with passengers, which amplifies the effectiveness of a behavior program. So they've done a lot of different things just in the past 2 weeks that, you know, I'm applauding them for. I'm amazed that they've been able to do this. But let's talk about what are some options moving forward. There's been a suggestion that we lower the price of pre-check, and I guess not we, I don't have that kind of control, but the TSA does. Unfortunately, that's pretty maxed out as it is. Somebody still has to get paid to do that check. And there's companies now that are doing the enrollment, so I doubt that's going to come down. Assessing airlines a checked bag fee, the airlines assess, you know, the TSA assessing that to the airlines. I'm not sure how that's going to, that sounds like a good idea, just in terms of having the airlines pay TSA more money for their work, but I'm just not sure if that would actually happen. That would have to be something through lawmaking. As far as the check bag fee, I don't like the check bag fee probably any more than any other passenger. You know, we're booking the family vacation this year, and I'm the only one that gets free bags because of my frequent flyer. But we're sitting there having to factor in all these other bag fees. The problem with getting rid of those is they're already factored into the airline's bottom line. They're already factored into airline budgets. Airports have already started to make some modifications because of the bag fee and the way it's changed passenger travel habits. Additionally, if you remove the fee or lower the fee and more people check bags, you're going to have to pull a lot of those TSA people downstairs to check out those bags, because now they're coming through the check bag system. Now, that said, that system moves a lot faster than the passenger checkpoint does, because you don't have to instruct the bag on how to divest itself and get through. But you still have a personnel allocation issue. And now, frankly, I just don't think the airlines are going to do it. So I'm just not sure. I wish they would. That would be wonderful. I'd love to get rid of that fee. The other thing that's been suggested is that airlines revise their travel schedules so that we try and spread traffic out throughout the day. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen either. And the airports have been trying to get them to do that for decades, just so there's not massive lines at certain times out on the airfield with planes lining up. So, and that airlines fly when passengers want to fly. They're meeting a market demand there. So those are the things that have really been put on the table for more long-term, or even maybe some short-term, just to get us through the summer. Unfortunately, I don't think check bag fees going away. I think a better education process for the public on what you can carry on, what you can't carry on, and check what you can is definitely going to help the lines this summer.
All right. Well, what about you mentioned a few of these things that could be coming to TSA, the automated bins, the posted wait times, you know, that they have at the train station that says the train is going to come in 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes to wait. So essentially, they would be allowing you to know how long from this point where you're standing it will take you to get through the checkpoint, which at that point you're pretty much, you know, it's not like you could turn around or change your mind unless you want to cancel your flight. You basically have to go through with it. But so you mentioned the automated bins. So they are doing that in other countries?
Yes, the automated bins have been around for quite a while. In fact, shortly after 9/11, I think it was about 2003, 2004, there were several models out there that the TSA was looking at and that other airports were already trying to implement. Um, but it doesn't even have to be an automated process to move that bin. I was in Italy in 2008 and just on vacation, and coming back through their checkpoint, all they had done over the X-ray machine is they put an additional set of rollers above the X-ray machine itself, and they just mounted a set of rollers. So when the passenger, and it was just a gravity system, so when the passenger got to the other side of the X-ray machine, they took their stuff back out of the bin, they set it on top of the rollers, and it rolled itself back to the front end of the X-ray machine. No automation necessary. The thing works on gravity, and gravity, as far as I know, has always worked. So the only problem you would have there is there's not if somebody failed to put the bin back up there, and there's always enough extra people kind of wandering around. Somebody can always toss some bins up. But once you condition the public to do that, they're going to do that very quickly. So those are things that some international airports have already adopted, either low-tech or high-tech, where the bin kind of drops down into an automated system and it gets shuttled back to the front side of the X-ray machine. As far as posting wait times, that would be a challenge. It's not like a ride at Disney World where they know how long the ride takes and how many people push through that ride on a per-minute basis. You could get somebody that has a knife in their bag, and now that entire line is stopped while everybody figures that out, or maybe a gun or prohibited item. Like that. Unfortunately, your state and my state were two of the top states for finding guns at the checkpoint. When that happens, the entire line stops, and they've got to call a law enforcement officer over to even pull the bag out of the machine. Meanwhile, everyone else is standing there waiting. They're trying to filter into other long lines. So some passenger education right there. Just quit bringing your guns into the airport would help a whole lot. But as far as wait times, I think it would be hard to judge, and people might be disappointed if those were digital wait times, and 1 minute it says 30 minutes, and then somebody goes through the line and has a prohibited item, and all of a sudden the digital sign there changes to 45 minutes while the person's literally looking at it. That can be very frustrating. So I think it's good to look at those as options as posting wait times. People like to know how much longer they have. Plus, the press and the airport itself can report that and say lines right now are averaging about this time, averaging about that time. A lot of the airports will do that reporting to the media anyway, but nothing like having somebody real time sitting in line that can tweet that out and say, hey, I'm at the 30-minute mark and got through in just about that amount of time. So anything that can help inform the travelers is definitely going to help.
So you mentioned this earlier. Explain to us, what is TSA pre-check and global entry. I know that I have global entry, and so that's probably the international sister or brother to TSA pre-check. And what are the benefits? Because a lot of people, want to know what can we do to, is it worth it for us to pay extra to get through security faster?
For the frequent flyer, if you don't have pre-check, I don't know why you don't. I don't know what your excuse is. You must be really confused standing in line watching all those people next to you blow right on through security at the pre-check line. So every frequent flyer should have it. What it is it's risk-based security. Something that is part of risk-based security is if we know more about you, you're not as much of a threat because we know more about you. And pre-check is the same background process that Stephanie, you go through to get your airline badge, that I go through to get my airport badges for the airports I do work at. It's a criminal history record check. That's why they take your fingerprints. Those get sent off to the FBI to determine if you have a criminal history that would not be conducive to trusting you with lower levels of scrutiny. It's a security threat assessment, which is a TSA process where they run your name through the terrorist screening databases that are managed by the FBI and some other agencies. And then it comes back with either an issue or don't issue. At that point, they've given you a little higher level of trust. You can now step into the pre-check lane when you come through airport security. meaning you don't have to take your laptops out, you don't have to take your shoes off, you can still keep on a light coat. Typically you're just going through a magnetometer, not the body imager, but they still do have some random processes. Every so often they'll say, no, take your shoes off, or step over here to the body imager, or step over here to the explosive trace detection unit so we can look for some trace elements of anything on your body or your belongings. So there's always still a random chance that you're going to get pulled aside for normal screening. But that takes place once you're at the front of the line. So you're not going to get to the front of pre-check and they're going to, if pre-check's on your ticket, they're not going to say, oh, go to the back of the other line and start again. It's not Monopoly. You don't have to not pass go. They'll just move you aside over to the normal passenger line. So you might have to buy a few extra minutes in line for that. So that's basically pre-check. It's $80. It's that lasts 5 years. You have to go to an enrollment center, and they're trying to open more of these right now because they're not real conveniently located. Mainly because they weren't meant for aviation to begin with. It was a credentialing program for the maritime and the dock worker and the trucker industry. So if you wonder why your pre-check enrollment center is in the middle of the industrial part of town, that's why. They're trying to open more centers now. When I went through the process for pre-check, I was in and out of the building itself in about 15 minutes. You do it by appointment, and then everything came in the mail later. It's good for 5 years. And if you're a frequent flyer, you should just go get it. Global entry is the Customs and Border Protection version of pre-check, but it's focused on international travel. But if you do global entry, you automatically get pre-check. If you're accepted to global entry, pre-check becomes an automatic process because the background checks are very similar for that. So if you're an international traveler and you do that frequently, get signed up for global entry. Might be a little harder because you got to go through an inter process for that. In some cases on the just kind of civilian side, I guess we'll call it. So it might take a little longer, but if you're in international travel, it's going to help you coming back through customs in the U.S., and it's going to help you getting back through the checkpoint.
Okay. Well, as a flight attendant, I know a lot of people ask me, what are the best days to fly? And so I normally, tell them, of course, especially because if they are a non-revenue passenger, somebody I've given a buddy pass to, or they are on a reduced fare ticket, I tell them that, of course, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and maybe Mondays, if depending on if it's a weekend like we just passed, those days are probably booked up. You don't want to try to fly on those days if you're a non-revenue passenger. But so that leaves Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday probably are the days that you can expect to not spend as much time in the process of going through security and getting onto your flight. Jeff, do you think that's probably good, a good answer for those people, or what are some of the latest technology or apps that might help people maneuver through airport security, if any?
Well, you're absolutely right. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are going to be the days to fly if you want to avoid the crowds. If you want to meet every business traveler in the United States, go fly on Sunday or Friday afternoon. The vacation travelers tend to also match those schedules, so that's why those are very busy days. Middle of the day, Saturday is not too bad to fly either. Typically, each airport is going to have its own app. A lot of the large airports do, and through those apps you can find parking availability, you can find screening wait line times, so you should have your local airport's app downloaded if they have one. Download that, because here in Colorado, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the best day to fly in terms of passenger, but it's the worst day to park at that airport because everybody's already left their cars there from Sunday and Monday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday it's hard to find a parking space. So the apps can tell you stuff like that, and that's definitely something to take a look at. Also, TSA has an app. You should download that. They'll post waiting times on that app. Usually it's up to date. So, but you can trust that only as much as you would trust any app information. So definitely get the My TSA app. Get your local airport app And check before you go. In fact, if it's a big important trip for you, check a week ahead of time at about that same time. And just like if you're going for a job interview somewhere, you want to drive that route. You know, if it's a big deal for you, you've never been there before, drive the route beforehand. You can do that online. You can just go and check, hey, I'm flying out on Tuesday next week. All right, so Tuesday this week, I'm going to check the traffic to the airport. And I'm going to check the line waits at a week before just by going online, and that'll give you a better idea.
That sounds great, Jeff. We appreciate everyone. We're about to close out. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. We were scheduled for an hour. It's now an hour later. So we are closing out. But before we go, we want to say thanks to Jeff for being able to help us with the expert advice on the do's and don'ts, and just trying to explain what's going on when you get to the airport. Now, for those of you who stayed with us, I have a special offer for the first 49 people. Again, this is because this webinar is an accompaniment to my book, The Do's and Don'ts of Flying, A Flight Attendant's Guide to Airline Travel Secrets. So I want you to go to info@happytravelersclub.com, and for the first 49 people who tell me that you tell me this phrase, the phrase is Eddie and Jeff rock. Put that in info@happytravelers.com, and then you will get a free gift. Okay? And so also we're going to give you a chance to pre-order my book. I'm going to type that in now. If you hold on, I want to type that in. This link will allow you to go and purchase the book for 99 cents essentially. So normally the e-copy version of the book is $5. So I've ordered a certain amount of the books to give as a promotional offer. So I've taken on $4.01 of that cost, so you can get it for 99 cents. So if you want to do that, then you go back to just put in info@happytravelers.com, and you can pre-order the book, and there's a link for you to get the book for 99 cents. I think I'm still on here, so let me go to share. Okay, so Jeff, are there any closing comments that you'd like to share with us?
I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity, Stephanie, and thank you for writing this book. The more that we can do to educate the traveling public, the happier their experience is going to be. And I remember travel in the pre-9/11 world, where we didn't have a lot of these challenges. I would love to get back to that point where going flying is something that you look forward to as an adventure and an amazing thing that we can do with our technology today. So absolutely, my hat's off to you. I appreciate all you're doing.
All righty, and we certainly appreciate you. And if you want to give your contact info or your Twitter handle, so if people have other questions, or maybe they might have a webinar where they want you to be their expert, you can do that.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll go ahead. I'm actually just typing it in there, so that'll send out my handle for that. I'll go ahead and put the website up there too if you'd like more information. For those of you that can't see it, I'll go ahead and say this as well. I'll see if I can master my own typing ability while talking at the same time. Yeah, my website is leadingedgestrategies.com, leadingedgestrategies.com, one word. And there's a lot of information on there. We post a weekly blog, and both about aviation security and airport safety. Couple of books on there that I've written, including the security one. And then the Twitter handle is just AV_security, AV_security. And we're pretty active on social media, so we'd love to connect with you.
All righty, thanks again, and we will certainly keep in touch with you, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Appreciated you having me on.
Thanks. Have a good week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, and bye to everyone else. We'll see you next time on our webinar.